Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Internet Chess Club. This is Grandmaster Miguel Illescas and we are going to Dubai to analyze game number 9 of this World Championship final between Magnus Carlsen, the champion, and the young Nepomniachtchi, the challenger. Well, I have some bad news for Russian fans and for everybody who was rooting for Nepo, because today he lost the third defeat of the Russian, this time very painful because he was playing with the white pieces. Let's go to see this game and we will draw very soon few conclusions about this match, about what happened and what's going on. The first thing is quite interesting that, well, he had a rest day after he lost on Friday this very long game, 136 moves. This was game number 6 of the World Championship, and I believe this was very bad news for him because after that game on Friday, they had to play 2 more games on Saturday and Sunday. So he didn't have really time to recover. So he had to sacrifice 1 white pieces on Saturday just because he was not in the mood to play. He was incredibly tired. And the bad news for him is that on Sunday he had to play again and with the black pieces. Then Magnus Carlsen was very clever. He made a very boring game, just playing for 2 results, and it worked out very well. Nepo got, I don't know if I would say crazy, he was completely shocked. Still, he was under a big shock of this defeat on Friday, so he didn't recover. He lost again on Sunday. And we were expecting very much that after the rest day on Monday, he would come back with his best chess on Tuesday, today. But the truth is that he was still on tilt. You know, this poker saying when you are on tilt, when you are not thinking objectively, when you cannot concentrate. And this is what happened to Nepo. It's very bad news because he was a very good challenger for the first half of the match. I would say even till game 7. Okay, he was losing by 1 point, but well, I mean, you are facing Magnus Carlsen. But I mean, later, after game 7, I mean, game 8, game 9, this has been a disaster. Let's have a look today. He started the game with c4. I like this sentence which I saw on Twitter. I think it was Anish Giri. He was trying to predict which would be the opening of this game number 9. And one of the options was c4, and he was saying this is a shot in the dark. And it's true that they have a few experience with both colors, with white and black, Nepo and Magnus. Maybe Carlsen played a bit more c4 with white, but it's true that Nepo playing 1 c4, this is something a bit unexpected. And Magnus' answer was even more unexpected. Usually the Norwegian plays with e5, maybe first knight f6, later e5, or immediately e5. And today he played e6. It's clear, again, Magnus, he wanted to surprise his opponent. And in general, I remember when working with Kramnik, it's a very good strategy when your opponent is in bad shape, he's on tilt. You shouldn't allow him to play from home. You should bring him to new territory. You should pose him immediate problems to make him uncomfortable from the very beginning. And this is what Magnus did with his choice of opening. Because look, after g3 and d5, bishop d2, sorry, bishop g2, and immediately a move which went out of book for both players. After d4, this was never played, not with white or black, with any of the players. Maybe Magnus played with white sometimes, but never with black for sure. And for Nepo, this was also completely new. He started to think from the very beginning, and this is a very good approach when you are leading, when you have the initiative, like Magnus is enjoying in the last few games. Well, what is the point of this move? Very soon we will see. Black wants to play some close position, like if he would be white. And it looks quite ugly because the pawn is on e6 instead of e5. This position could be theoretical after g3, let's say. and we have the same position. It looks like a tempi up for black because the pawn is on e5 instead of d6. And it's true, but we will see that it has also some subtleties which we need to know. We will see very soon. After knight f3, knight c6, castle, now black plays bishop c5. And it's clear that Magnus knew what he was doing. He was thinking a bit, but it shows a great understanding and a deep knowledge of all chess openings. This reminds me very much of Vladimir Kramnik. I mean, you could not really surprise him. I mean, he always had something, some card on his sleeve. I mean, something just to avoid to be surprised. And after bishop c5, the point is that if we compare this position with the same with tempi up, with the pawn on e5, here white has a very strong move b4. Look, this is very interesting. Now, after b4, black needs to take, but the problem if he takes with the knight, then he's losing the beautiful pawn on e5, which is stronger than the pawn on b2. So white gets some kind of advantage. And if he takes with the bishop, then it follows a very well-known sequence, tactical sequence. Knight takes, take, check, the bishop is hanging, take, and take on b4. According to the theory, this is better for white, this is very weak, this is all weaknesses. White will very soon get this pawn, probably, and this is a huge advantage for white. There is no time for black to really use his bishop. Very soon he's going to lose the pawn on d4, and this is better for white. So it's a main difference between our game and the normal theory with pawn on e5. Now after bishop c5, white has not these tactics. And the second thing which is important in this move order, and that's why I'm very much impressed by Magnus, he has all these weapons, you know, is that after if b4 now, of course, knight takes b4, and there is no pawn on e5 to capture for white. And if e3, which would be a main move, if now black plays e5, white is better, gets a very good version of the Benoni. But now black has a very good delicate move. Do you see it? Yeah, it's a strategy, you know, knight e7. It's very important. The knight from e7 will be able to attack square d4. That's important in lines, for example, like b4, take, take, and now we castle, and later we have enough pieces, and even if needed, we can bring the bishop, enough pieces to grab this pawn and to get a very nice position with black. And that's why it looks like the tempi down, the knight could be on f6, and then we would not have this line. So it's strange, but in this line it's not so bad to have the pawn on e6. It offers black some extra options. Nepo, he was also well prepared. He was thinking, but he found the best moves, d3 and knight bd2. This is considered to be the main challenge for black in this line, but as we shall see, it's nothing special. After a few moves, now the point is very interesting, that if black pretends to keep the bishop on this diagonal, which looks very important to stop e3, but then, you know, white to play and get an advantage. It's a very difficult move. I bet that you cannot find it. I mean, you can think for a while. It's a difficult move, very difficult. I was in fact surprised when I was checking the game. What is the drawback of bishop a7? It looks very good, but the problem is a4, you know, it's amazing. And suddenly black has a problem with a5, and the machine is offering bishop b8, but okay, come on. No human likes to play like this, you know, and also it's possible queen e1, and maybe still the pawn is gonna fall. So, and of course if bishop b6, then we have the move c5. So it's a very interesting that bishop a7 is not working because a4. Difficult to remember these things. Okay, then black has to go back with the bishop, very modest, and white used the opportunity to break on e3. It's true that he's getting some nice break here, but the knight is very badly placed on b3. It should be on c3. If white wants to be better, he badly needs the knight on c3. Because now black has different ways to equalize, but the more direct is what Magnus played. Knight g4. In fact, both are playing quite well. This variation, I mean, it's equal or maybe very slightly better for white. Castle, and Of course, now black goes a4, and then white is kind of forced to take. The queen takes, and the rook is coming very fast to d8. The queen is excellently placed on e7, and in general, black is kind of equalizing. There is only one little problem for black, is this bishop. Yeah, how to develop this bishop. This is the main problem for black's position, but we will see how Magnus played brilliantly, as usual. I mean, he's so strong. He played a3. This is a very clever move. The rook is already playing, so there is not so much hurry to develop this bishop, because both rooks will have play in this d8 and a8 squares. This is a clever concept because it was not easy to find a good way to develop the bishop. We will see where the bishop will land anyway. Here, according to the computer, white missed the opportunity to keep a slight advantage with a very difficult move, b4. Well, I mean, this is not the move that the humans think, because, okay, after take, then rook b1, you give another one. And, okay, if the knight moves, then we take on b7. This is not something that you have in your brain. I mean, this is something that you have to find with very deep calculation, and Nepo was not in the mood to go so deep into the position. So he played the more standard move, b takes a3. By the way, here I have to say that if knight a2, then the knight is lost, queen d2, and black is losing the knight. So this was not working for black, of course, in this b4 variation. After b takes a3, as I said, now black gets a very comfortable equality. Both rooks play. White has this weakness. This pawn is going, I mean, difficult to keep it, so black will take very soon. And Nepo decided to regroup, try to be strong on the center, and it's probably a good idea. Black also brought his knight back to normal positions. He's not in a hurry to take because he can take any time. And I don't quite like next move from white. I mean, I would be a bit uncomfortable here. I would move my queen, something like queen e2 maybe. And if queen a3, then maybe we can play the rook to d1. This would make some sense, you know. But Nepo, he played, maybe not very precise, he played rook e1. He likes the rook in front of the queen, but of course the queen flies. And now the rook is not so well placed on e5, and the queen still, it is badly placed in front of the black rook. In fact, the Russian had to play queen e2, and then, okay, my question is, should I play rook e1 here, really? Or should the rook better be on d1, which looks much more natural to me? Black improved his position on the king side with h6, giving a window, also controlling g5. White did the same with h4, that makes sense. And here black shows how he's planning to finish his development with the clever move bishop d7. It looks a bit poor, but the bishop will be fine on e8, controlling c6, and in fact playing in an important diagonal on the queen side. So it's not such a big deal to have the bishop there. White played knight e5, which is very logical, and black played bishop e8. This can be a bit strange for people who is not familiar with the Catalan opening and all the variations where white can double pawns on c6. In fact, here, white can take on c6, black takes, take. And, well, I mean, you may say, well, white is better. Look, I can convince you easily that white is better. Look, double pawns. I have a passed pawn. White has the center, beautiful pawns on the center. So white is better, but it's not true. I mean, it's very nice from a theoretical point of view, but it's not true. Black has, now I'm going to convince you that black is better. Look, black is pressing on a2 with the rooks. He can double or make a lot of pressure on this pawn. These pawns are also under attack. I mean, the rook is making some pressure. And also this can be attacked from a4, b4 with the rook or the queen. And white really has no way to attack the double pawns, so black is better. And you may say, come on, Miguel, what is the truth? I mean, who is better, white or black? And the answer is pretty simple. The position is equal. I mean, both sides have their own trumps, and the truth is that it should be a draw with good play. But this was not today for Nepo. I mean, he was not in that mood. and he didn't take on c6. That would be very natural after all his play, and he played queen e3. In fact, if you don't take here, I'm dubious what is white's plan. I mean, what is white gonna do here? If we cannot take on c6, it looks like white plan is not gonna work. And queen e3, in my opinion, is not very precise, because now, look, in this position, knight takes, pawn takes, and the knight has no squares, especially g4. But after queen e3, as played in the game, after knight takes, pawn takes, the knight will have an opportunity to jump on g4, and this will show to be important, I mean, in the game. Black played a clever move, queen b4, attacking here. Now the rook is ready to go to a3, for example, to increase the pressure on the queen side. Also, at the same time, the rook is also targeting the other rook. So now it's annoying for white to play this position. And Nepo didn't react well. He went rook b1. And now suddenly, I think he's getting slightly uncomfortable here, because after knight g4, now the point is that it looks like, oh come on, the knight can be in a bad shape, but it's not true, h5. And suddenly, the knight is very well, and well, white has some problems. The rooks are not very active here. In fact, after knight g4, Nepo played very fast queen e1, but this is already, I mean, not so nice. I mean, black took and played. Now, black has several ways to equalize, in my opinion, but well, white is training f3, and the knight is lost, so black needed to do something about it. He went h5. Maybe Nepo thought, okay, come on, in this line I'm winning a pawn, and maybe that's why he played quite fast to reach this position. But the truth is that after rook a4, black has full compensation for the pawn. In fact, it's difficult to offer good moves for white to keep the pawn alive, I mean, to keep the advantage of a pawn, because the knight is very active, and I'm in shock to see the next move. I mean, please, you should close your eyes, I mean, if you don't like scary movies, because what we are going to see is a very pity, a very ugly move from white, one of the worst moves I've ever seen in a World Championship match. I'm very sorry for the Russian player, but this is not him. I mean, this is somebody took his place, and since the defeat on the game 6, he's not the same player. I mean, here anybody, any strong grandmaster would play f3 just to chase this knight away, and only after knight h6 you would consider, what are my possibilities? It's difficult to protect this pawn, because then black gets immediately very active. I mean, there are some dangers in the position. But if you go deep in this position, you will understand that one of the best options is to play bishop e4 to prevent the knight from jumping to f5. Okay, if he jumps, we just take it. And after black takes, rook takes c4, we can play rook c1. And then we have here some nice target. At the same time, we are ready to push our pawn with the power of this bishop helping. And okay, white is slightly better. I mean, maybe still it's going to be a draw, but if anybody is better, it is white. I mean, it's obvious. You don't need to be a grandmaster to understand this assessment. But there are some other ways to play. But the most incredible thing happened, that Nepo forgot the real threat from black. In fact, it would be better to pass. If he would pass, it's not so terrible, but the move he played, it's a terrible mistake, c5. He thought maybe he can keep his pawn advantage, but it's incredible. He was thinking only for 4 minutes this decisive mistake, which has a very simple refutation. Okay, very simple for Carlsen, very simple for a grandmaster. Maybe you can try to think about it. How would you punish this mistake from white? What is the winning move for black? There is only one winning move, by the way. So try to find it while I drink some water. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm too maximalist. Maybe I'm too tough. But I know how strong is Nepomniachtchi, and I feel pity for him that he's playing so bad last 2 games. The answer is that c6 is completely winning, because this bishop is lost completely. It's trapped in enemy's territory, and there is nothing white can do about it. I mean, the bishop can be trapped with both rooks, and it's amazing that Nepo didn't see the danger. I mean, in fact, with the pawn on c4, after c6, white would have the move knight c5, and things would be not so simple. But I mean, it's incredible, this c5, which deserves two question marks, because it's a losing move. Magnus, I'm sure he was in shock, happy, of course, happy shock. And he played c6, and now the game is over. f3, knight h6, and white cannot avoid losing a piece. Rook e4 and rook b4, and it's so simple. It's so easy for a strong grandmaster to see this. And here Nepo could resign. I mean, he's going to lose a piece for just one pawn. In fact, he played a4, and it's true. He's getting simply full piece down, no pawn compensation. The only hope is to do something with this guy, but as we will see, it's true, this bishop is quite bad, but black is a piece up, and the knight is coming to help, and very soon it will be clear that white has really nothing for this piece. Black continues taking important pawns. Of course, if king f2, then white, black has several ways. The knight will join the battle, and he can blockade on a7. Then later it's a matter of time. Black plays f6, bishop g6. It's completely winning position, and there is nothing to analyze. But after a6, okay, let's see how the game ended. It's very fast. Knight a4, he was trying to play a7, knight b6, but black played c5, and the bishop is coming to c6. And that's why white played a7. And here he took on c5, if knight b6, of course, bishop c6. And the pawn is under its control. And after knight c5, rook a8, it was time to resign. 39 moves. Now the score is 6-3 for the champion. I would say game over. I mean, it's impossible to recover, I believe. Not one chance into 1,000, especially against an opponent who is one of the greatest players of all times and who is in very good shape. Magnus playing very safe, making all his moves make a lot of sense. And it's clear Nepo is completely out. I mean, making a mistake like a beginner. I mean, allowing to his bishop to be trapped. And what can I say? I mean, I would like to make a longer review, but this game doesn't deserve it. That was all the last shot in the dark, as somebody said, was backfiring to the challenger. And now tomorrow we have a game which may be decisive if Magnus, with the white pieces, if he keeps pressing, I have the feeling he may win again. And of course, for him, 3 draw is also not so bad. I mean, he has now 6 points. He only needs 1.5 in the last 5 games. It looks pretty simple. But we will see. He also has 3 white, so everything is in his favor. And well, I mean, what can we say? We can only say that we hope to have some beautiful games in these last games of this match. That was my recap. I hope you enjoy it, and of course you are always welcome to the Internet Chess Clubs, where I have some other videos on strategy and tactics. If you like these recaps, please check my videos. See you tomorrow. I hope we can explain a very interesting game. Bye bye.